Victor Mark. Rose. And I'll move along as we get to some. Sorry, I'm reading out the names from here. I'm going to invite up Gloria Corsino, who's the president of Citywide District 75 Parents Council. And finally, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Jesus Sanchez. You will recognize him as the star of the film.
Hey everybody. Yes, as tired as I am. So, wow, that was amazing. Just wondering how this story grabbed your interest and how you got, how did you discover it?
Well, the director, Sam Fleishner, read an article about a boy who had run away and ridden the subway, and he decided that he wanted to make a movie about the topic. And we met and started talking about a story and tried to figure out a way to tell it that makes sense in New York City. And that's where it came from. There's also a lot of documented, not just this specific story, the New York Times, but this is a thing that happens over and over again. We've seen it a lot recently, actually. And even this week, there was a young boy who left a school and a teacher found him on the train. So it was a way, we were looking for a specific story that talked about something a little more general that people experience in New York City.
So, what was it like for you in terms of preparing for this role? And did you spend time at all with the family and getting to know, what it was like, the dynamics and characteristics?
The first one would be awesome, and then the second one would be that we actually stayed on the set for like a day, one night, and there we got to go to talk and get to know each other more.
You and Ricky?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, me and Ricky?
Yeah.
Oh, well then.
Ricky's made up.
Well then. It was pretty cool. I was able to connect with the character in many different ways. I always made sure to whenever I was acting, the camera's rolling, instead of thinking from my point of view or from somebody else's point of view, I would be thinking from Ricky's point of view, his actual thoughts and stuff during the movie.
Yeah, and so did you spend any time with people who identify as having Asperger's or on the spectrum, or people, struggling with independent skills, at that age? Because you really captured a lot in your physical, the way you acted, and your nonverbal expressions really mirrored a lot of what we see. I should disclose, I'm a parent of an 11-year-old who is nonverbal, cerebral palsy, and I saw a lot of him in you.
Well, some of the stuff that I was, I got it from different students from classes that I've visited in school.
And Gloria.
I think that I totally assimilate him with my younger son Alex, who is very adventurous in his own mind. I think the toughest part for me as a parent was watching you traveling on the trains and not one person actually reaching out, and it so resonates our fear as a parent of what our children could be out there and no one would actually think to stop and ask. So I think that you really made us think about ourselves as humans and start remembering that we have to, just because someone doesn't look like they need help doesn't mean that they don't.
Well, like how it seems like most people, they tend to only talk to, like strangers if they like somehow engage in a conversation. But if they just like, no, they're not really talking to them, they're just sitting there, they're not gonna like start a conversation. So I think that's one of the reasons why they never really like, talk to Ricky or during his training, during all the trainings.
Do you find yourself in that position at times that unless you engage someone, they won't engage you?
Well, it happens in everyday life. If I want to be able to engage in a conversation, I have to like start it. So that's what I do.
I'm glad you're not bashful.
So, Rose, when you were writing the screenplay, over what time period did the movie take place? Was it 10 days? Was it a week? And did you know how you wanted it to end when you started?
Yeah, we always talked about it being 10 or 11 days, kind of long enough for it to be really, really serious. And we knew how it would start, and we knew how it would end, and everything else we kind of made up. And a lot of it was kept loose so that Sam could shoot on the subway and capture things in New York City as they are. And I mean, the subway was really important to the story because, and as you mentioned, it's kind of insane that nobody would notice a child lost for so long. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to the story, because it isn't a story just about one boy. It's kind of a story about the New York experience of feeling both surrounded by other people and yet sometimes just very alone. And that can sometimes be really beautiful. You can have encounters that are really meaningful, but it can also mean that you feel lost. And so that was really something that we wanted to capture in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you totally did. There's so much of that movie and the scenes that was so New York centric, and I know a lot of it resonated for me, just taking the train every day to and from work, and the lighting, and we all see different kinds of people, and we either choose to make eye contact or not, contingent upon the time of day. I think a lot of us were thinking about Avante.
Right.
And
what he might have gone through.
exactly, and there are so many similar things going on with the water, with the train when Ricky's mom thought that they found him on the train. Do you guys remember the picture in the news? A lot of us, every day we hear the announcements, and it was kind of eerie. Where were you? Were you guys done with the film when, that was in October, so was the film already completed when that happened?
Yeah, it had been completed for a little less than a year at that point.
I think Sandy had been right around that time. They had stopped the trains after a certain time. That's right.
Yeah, the eerie thing for me is that I was here the day Sandy hit, talking with parents about how to advocate for their kids who receive special education services, and you guys really did a great job capturing the mom in terms of her affect. I felt that it was really great that she wasn't portrayed as an alarmist but a realist, and sometimes we're sensitive to people with disabilities being victimized, not maliciously, but in the media and in films. And what was that like for you, writing that part, in terms of how you wanted her to be portrayed?
Well, we thought a lot about what she was going through, and how, like any mother, she loved her son tremendously and yet still would have moments of intense frustration, and how that's a really complicated thing, and she might not always make the most reasonable choices in dealing with him, but that she was always trying to figure out how to help him and be there for him and advocate for him. And it was painful for her when she felt like she was failing. and when she felt like she failed him, and when she felt like other people failed him. And so it was really important to capture that pain and that frustration, and she is looking for a support network and not always finding it. And I think that's how a lot of people feel when they're going through something. They want their community to rally around them. They're not necessarily that good at asking always, and when they do ask, it's not always met with the right answer. So it was basically a matter of trying to balance those things, the tremendous amount of love and faith and hard work that goes into being a mother, and then and then also just like the raw anger of feeling like it's not going the way you want it to.
Well, I think that what I captured in the movie was, because I had two autistic children, I have a typically developing 1-year-old. And I think it's the balance of trying to not be angry at that child and at the same time not burdening them with the responsibility. So it's tough to not make your child your other children's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ricky, how long was the film? How long did it take? I called you Ricky. Listen to me, I'm sorry. What was that process like for you? Are you a New Yorker?
No, I live in Florida.
So Florida. So what was it like riding the trains and trying to internalize what that was like?
It was pretty cool since it was like the first time, being in New York.
I called you Ricky. I'm so sorry.
It was really cool, riding the trains underground, but riding the trains when it was like above ground was like normal, because in Puerto Rico they have, trains and it's like above the ground.
We'd love to take some questions from the audience. I just wanted to add and start by saying, I remember when our selection committee saw this film, and were blown away by the film. First of all, it was of course the timeliness, but beyond that, I thought on the artistic level, the realness of it, the authenticity. You see a lot of films of a lot of different kinds, and unfortunately, I think reality often gets lost in the filmmaking process sometimes. And I did not feel that way in this film. In fact, I think some people were trying to figure out if it was a documentary or not as we were watching it, which is just a credit to the I think the beautiful and real filmmaking that went on there. And I'd love to hear if there was anything in the process to really keep that authenticity.
Well, like I said, there were places where we talked about kind of just improvising when we were showing New York City in the trains. But more importantly, it was really important for Sam to find an actor who could really pull this role off. That was really, really important. If central character who doesn't do a lot of explaining himself didn't convey the feelings in the movie, then the movie wouldn't work. And so a lot of it is just the luck of finding Jesus.
Awesomeness guaranteed.
And Andrea, who plays the mother, is also really, really key, because as you brought up, that role is really, really complex, and I think that she does an amazing job of conveying that complexity, just like in just how she holds herself.
It was her acting was really, really good. At points I was actually scared, because I was like, is she angry? I was like, is the camera rolling? Because, I'm scared that I might have done something.
First of all, I'm incredibly impressed by the film. I was really blown away by it. I wish this was something, I hope this is something that's going to get further distribution, because it takes on so many things that have happened in New York in the recent times. Just echoed so many things. So I have a two-part question, basically. One, I'm just trying to understand if I understand correctly that Sandy was not written into the screenplay, that this happened to be happening while you were filming it?
Yeah, they were shooting, we had always imagined that the movie would be shot during Halloween, because we wanted to capture the craziness of New York subways during Halloween, and have that be like a kind of like scary, magical background to the story. And if you remember correctly, that was the weekend the hurricane was coming. So we were in production, and that started to happen. And Sam has a house on the Rockaway, so he stayed there. They kind of, you pause for a second, right? And he shot in the night as the hurricane was hitting, and it just happened. And then later there was some more shots, and you see the daylight effects. But there was always a part in the movie where we wanted it to feel ambiguous, and strangely, the hurricane provides that moment. And obviously, you can't predict something like that, but that's filmmaking. I mean, things happen. And then it's really eerie that there's the echo with Avante, and really, really sad. And that I don't really know what to say about that, except that the story that we're trying to tell obviously has wider resonancies than just the past research that we did. So.
There's one other quick question. Something that I did not understand, and I've done some work with immigration and Latino affairs in the past. Where was Jesus' father when? What was he telling you? Where was he all that time? What was going on as he saw?
He was working. Originally, he was working in an orchard, but that isn't. But he was working somewhere else on a job that had taken him away from his family.
Susan, I was just hugely impressed with your performance, and I'm wondering what sort of prior acting experience did you have, and how were you selected for this role all the way up from Florida?
Well, before the movie, I was interested, like a long time ago, I got interested in acting and stuff like that. So I would be like you could say I was in drama class in one of my schools in Puerto Rico, if you count being in the other room looking through the window because I was doing homework. But yeah, I was, like whenever the teacher would look away, I would just pay attention to what they're saying, like learn as much as I can. But I was always interested in stuff like that, and there's been times that I was on like a play. There was once that I was in a play. I was not really enjoying that play. But it was really cool acting, and I really, wanted to do something, way more bigger and more cooler. So when, I got to be able to film in the movie, it was awesome. It was like great. It was cool. Some of the things that I got from my character, the things that were given to my character, you could say, I got it from how I used to be a long time ago, which a long time ago I was a lot like Ricky is in the film. But I've improved throughout all the years, so yeah.
You've never been in any movies before?
No, this is the first time.
Wow, very impressive.
We're going to take one last question over here.
Thank you. In some ways, this film really, I think, is an indictment of a school that was not delivering actually what it was legally responsible to deliver for Ricky. A police department that certainly was made aware that a child was missing, and a transit system that was sort of absent from, again, where were the eyes? It's so interesting, and I was on the selection committee, and it was very eerie that like 3 weeks after we saw it, we met and decided we wanted to screen this film, that Avante went missing, and how shocking, it was startling to see, in fact, how the transit police, how the police department, how the public was really mobilized in a way that clearly was absent from, from this film. And I just wonder, given the activists here representing families dealing with the educational system and raising children who do have disabilities, what lessons and how can we use this film to help mobilize the systems that are supposed to be working for our children?
I was like, is that an answer?
Yeah. That's a great question. And so there's always the personal piece, like what am I going to do in relation to my own child, and then what are we going to do? And with Avante, like the media noted, he became New York's kid, you know, very much so. And the issue is that it's lots of different government systems that are in place regarding the safety of children in schools. So you have safety policies that come from the Department of Education, and then we also have every school that has their own individual plan. In addition to that, the school safety agents are overseen by the NYPD. And so there's lots of different chiefs, and there's not one set policy that comes out. So it's not a centralized system. And so for me, and through the work I do, we often tell parents, bring your children to school, introduce them to the safety agents, and introduce them to the other people in the school, because a lot of our buildings have more than one program in it, and there's co-locations. And it's hard because a lot of the kids who have these types of disabilities, who may be nonverbal or they are elopers, get bused to school, so the parents don't physically bring them to and from. And so there's a huge disconnect. The other thing is that parents, and this is not easy, is coming up with maybe like a one-pager about who their kid is, and listing strategies of things they've done that have worked. So if this happens, then this is what you guys should try doing, and this is what's worked for us. Also, you know, asking parents to bring pictures of their kids and attaching it to this one pager so that everybody knows who they are. We've got a lot of work to do around this, and we have a lot of pressure to put on a lot of different people.
Well, I think that in the piece you see, it's sort of what you see where special ed reform was, Ricky was in his community school. Because he was walking distance, so he wasn't commuting to school. And that's where you see a lot of the failure, or where the community school is not set up to meet the needs of our children. And unfortunately, you know, we put our children in these schools because we want them to be within the community where they live. But those principals are not given the funding, so the programs that they need are not in place. And IEPs are a federal mandate, and we see these violated, and we hear these stories all the time, you know. And we're strong in our advocacy, so we don't get those, you know, down places. Well, you know, we don't have it, and we don't get those excuses. We won't tolerate those excuses. I know we don't.
No. But what we do get a lot of times are families that aren't from here, and it's a huge struggle for lots of the obvious reasons that you really did a great job mirroring what it's like in real life, and kind of encouraging families to take baby steps. And some of the work we do at Resources is hooking up parents with other parents who have done it, and kind of a lot of hand-holding and taking the risk, and, you know, role-playing and giving scripts, and a lot of encouragement. And so, you know, I hate to bring up Avante again, but I often wonder, and I'm sure a lot of people here have as well, what would it have been like if Avante was rich and white, in terms of the response from the school, in terms of response from the communities and the media. It was in the media in the beginning a lot, and then it stopped, but we felt the presence as New Yorkers because we were using public transportation. And so, you know, with Ricky, I mean, I guess you knew what you were doing in terms of having him be from a Mexican family. And
I mean, part of what we were thinking is that there isn't just one way of being marginalized. And there are a lot of challenges. The challenges vary depending on who you are, your socioeconomic background, your personality, you know, like all of those things affect the outcome, and we were really trying to capture that aspect.
You did it.
Thank you very much, Gloria. Thank you so much for being here. Folks, thank you for being here.